Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first video of reviewing replays. So this is a replay from a match in Bullet. It was a Bullet tournament, the Christmas Bullet tournament that is held yearly in Poly Champions. Here we are having a Vengir mirror, which is very interesting because Vengir mirrors are known to be very amazing, very cool. A lot of tricks that's going to be happening in Vengir matches. Not many people know how to play Vengir that well because it's known as not that of a good tribe. So here we go, let's begin. Now, the host in the Bullet tournament, by the rules, has to skip the first turn. So the host, me, skips the first turn. So here we go. My opponent goes ahead and goes for the warrior. Now, usually in Tiny Vengir, it is always recommended to go for the swordsman, no matter what, because you just have raw power. In if you go for double swordsman, a warrior and a swordsman just don't win against two swordsmen. So if you if my opponent meets me early, they just get destroyed. So here we go. Continue. So I go for the double swordsman. So my opponent goes ahead and goes different directions. Alright. Let's continue. So here you go. So from the score, because I score count, I see that my opponent has gone for the warrior, so I try to go to the middle, meet them as fast as possible, win by just might. This is the reason I don't go towards the resources to the left to explore 5 tiles. I'm trying to cut my opponent off from finding a village early, but sadly I kind of fail at that. So my opponent gets climbing in order to get a lot of vision, as well as to, get into mining for the smithery bonus from Forge. No, not a lot of mines, but still good. He also gets quite a bit of vision from the mountains. He sees my territory. So he goes for... There we go. So I still have to explore. So I only go for one swordsman. And the other one goes for the... By the way, it's good to note that for Joyful Sausage, they have a worse spawn than me, as they went for the 2 fruits. They only have the 2 fruits, while I have the two animals for which I can go into hunting, and then into forestry, and then into mathematics, so my spawn is significantly better in terms of eco. Alright, so my opponent meets me and gets some stars. He gets a veteran swordsman from the ruin and enters the village. So I also meet my opponent. I get hunting and upgrade. I also realize that the opponent has gotten a veteran swordsman, because if they haven't gotten any kills, that's the only way they can get a veteran swordsman from a ruin. So my opponent attacks with a veteran swordsman because it has more health, so it's stronger than my 8 HP. So it gets mining before capturing. Very important to always do that. Don't get a tech unless you're capturing a city or gonna use it on the same turn. Very nice note. Here we go. I explore. So here's my first mistake, which is getting a swordsman. So it's much better for here to go for the economy, just because I have so many forests to upgrade and get a very quick giant. But it's also not too bad, as it allows me to go ahead and explore this for a village to contest, because a warrior would not have been enough. Now it's going to be much harder for me to get forestry, as forestry costs 8 and I only have 3 stars per turn, or 4 now, or 5. It's glitched. So anyway, 5 stars because it's mine. Alright. So the opponent also sees the city and attacks me, because if he didn't, I would get the city for one more turn. And the veteran swordsman is stronger than the normal swordsman. Captures the city. And just passes the turn. So I don't go for the city. The reason why is because my swordsman is gonna immediately die. But that way, I can give him the option of either killing the swordsman or going for the village. And the reason I do that is that I get a chance to heal a bit and deal a bit more damage. It's not a very significant move, it's just a very micro move. I get another swordsman, just screwing over my economy. So he goes ahead and retreats the warriors, playing defensively for the ruin, making sure that he gets the ruin. So there we go. You see the heal for the swordsman. You see that my other swordsman. So I don't go for the ruin, and instead I just go for his capital. I see it open, and I force. This is pretty much forces him to get a swordsman. So you go. I get a. I get another. So it's not good to get a swordsman here, even though you can. Even though it helps support this swordsman, it just screws over my economy. As previously mentioned, I need to get forestry as fast as possible to capitalize on the giant. Because right now, it's looking like my opponent has 4 cities and I only have 2. So I can't really win with raw might. So you go. My opponent is forced to get a swordsman, because otherwise he just loses on the economy. So he goes ahead and kills my healed swordsman, which I didn't know he could do. So that's... hold on. So here you go. I explore for the village, move my swordsman, kill his warrior, and then I go for the road, which is now mine. I get forestry as well, which is kind of a mistake since I don't use it on the same turn. But, you know, it is a live game, so you're fine with making mistakes because you don't have much time to think. So you go. My opponent starts getting its economy, which is very good. He attacks the swordsman, but it's not enough, so I'm able to get the ruin. I get riding, which is practically useless for me. Because, you know, swordsmen counter riders in almost all cases. So you go, I'm starting to try and go for eco. Because, you know, it's the sudden realization that, hey, my opponent has more cities than me. So I'm just going to lose. And this does look like a losing situation for mainly me, because I have 3 cities, my opponent has 4. There's no village down here. So I'm just losing right here, because my opponent will just get better economy. They have way more forests. This village has absolutely nothing. I will have to get climbing and mining just to have something from the village. And I only have enough for like 1 giant. This city doesn't give me a giant with mathematics. And or I can also get farming, by the way. So the situation is bad. Like really bad. I have only 3 swordsmen. I have pretty much nothing. I have 2 cities, 3 next turn. 1 city is just gonna take so long to upgrade. And the potential for me to lose is just so high right now. So this is very, very bad situation for me. If my opponent just goes for the economy and he gets mathematics and maybe even farming, and he just starts going all eco, he just wins. But there is a way to win this. So my opponent is going for economy now. He's just spending all his stars on upgrading. It's not even. Just starting to heal. He's starting to retreat his lower health units. So it's really starting to give me time. So I cut for the swordsman because I'm pretty much forced to. He has a bit more military than me and could win just by power. He starts exploring into my territory. So yes, I'm hoping there's a village down there. I'm trying, you see, I'm hoping that he doesn't see this. So maybe he might accidentally put a warrior here and I might get a sneaky siege. But he's just going all economy. But my opponent just forgot that forges exist, so he's no, he didn't. He just kind of forgot that this is an option to upgrade your capital and get 2 extra stars. Mistake by my opponent. Hold on. There you go. I realized that I retreat the rider just for defensive purposes. Realize there's no village. I get math. So here's something you should note whenever you're at a disadvantage with villages. If you have less villages than your opponent and you can't take a village, you have to make up with that by power. You have to make your military stronger than theirs to be able to take their villages. And the best way to gain a lot of power very quickly is by getting giants, as well as getting late game units. But my opponent already has late game units. They're starting to have a decent economy. So the only way I can win this is by having a unit that counters their swordsman, as well as having a giant for the power. So you're gonna see my opponent really starting to make the situation worse, as they're just starting to get some units in. So there we go. I go for a giant, because it's the only thing I can do here. I need to make up with power. Get a giant, and I also get a Park of Fortune on this city instead of this, because this city is going to get sieged. So from leveling up this city, I can get resources to train a swordsman. Here we go. And the opponent is just going for a full attack. Casually just blundering kind of a move here, which don't attack a defended swordsman if you're not gonna siege. Here we go. The opponent is also just upgrading, going for economy. Very good. If you have more villages than your opponent, go for economy. Because the only way your opponent can win with less villages than you is a good navy, which doesn't exist on drylands, or by getting a bunch of giants and just winning by raw power. So he saw my giant, he realized what I'm going for, and he's just launching attacks as well as going for economy. Wonderfully played by my opponent. So I'm in real trouble right now, but I was able. This was a pretty big mistake, as now I'm just able to completely counter this attack. An 8 HP swordsman can't kill it another 8 HP. They just leave them both at 1 HP. So this attack is just completely countered now. He can't do anything. Now all that is left is this attack, and my opponent is just doing well. They've got the eco, they've got good economy. If they get math right here and they start popping giants, I just lose. So I realized that and go for the only play here that is gonna at least give me a chance. No. Go ahead and I go for a catapult. Now, a catapult in a Vengir's game is extremely powerful. Going for catapults in mathematics in Vengir is very good. If you got a lot of forests as Vengir, you pretty much have to go for mathematics because it wrecks. Mathematics just wins in Vengir games. And go here's what you'll see. The opponent is trying to go for the economy, but it's too late. I just got mathematics right now, and here you go. I'm sneaking a 2 out of 3 kills Vengir swordsman, so I can promote it to a veteran. So I'm chopping one because my economy is allowing only one catapult, but it's one shot for another swordsman, so I have to chop once per turn if I want the swordsman and a catapult. So I have to launch a counterattack as well as playing defensive, and that's going to require me to chop. So you see the attack is slowly being just no, don't know a word for it. It's just being put out of existence. So he finally decides to go for mathematics to counter my catapults, but it's pretty much too late. The opponent is now fighting a losing battle as the giant is just heading over here behind the catapults, and unless he can get a line of catapults at the back in time, which he can, but the problem is I now have the upper head with the swordsman over here, so I can counter that. And the way you counter catapults with swordsman is you basically have to lock the you have to lock the ones that are on cities. So you have to make them not move and attack. And the way you do that is by going over here. You put them in range of your swordsman. So this catapult is now forced to kill this swordsman. But that means it can't move and produce more catapults. You see, I purposefully don't attack. And the catapults are just starting to, line up, as well as maybe even going for a capital. Yeah, so he can't move his he can't move his catapult anymore. He could move it like out of the way, but that still leaves him with only one catapult instead of 2 or more. Here we go. So I start sieging and I start adding more pressure. Very interesting move, moving the 6 HP swordsman to make sure that the catapult is now forced to kill it. I could have went for the 20 HP to be completely brutal, but I wanted him to, force a giant. But if I went for the 20 HP onto the resources, that would pretty much give him less hope to get a giant. But he could have gotten a monument and a forge and one forest, and I would have also given him a giant. So, but this would be more forceful on the catapult. So you go. And I have gotten, from killing everything, I've gotten a gate of power. So now I'm able to also get another giant. So maybe launching an attack over here, and you see how fast games are turned around with mathematics and Vengir. Most of your games, if you start with two animals, you get hunting, forestry, and math. You just wreck the other Vengir. You just win against them because you get an early giant. You you get a bunch of catapults, which completely destroy swordsmen. It's just really powerful in Vengir. So here we go. My catapults are just lined up against the giant. He's forced to use the catapult. Here we go. This forces him to pretty much get a giant or lose the city. And then I get the giant instead, so. This is the last turn before my opponent resigns. As I kill the giant with all my catapults. Actually, just leaving one catapult open. Maybe you can go force the other catapult to kill it. I don't know. But I also siege the capital. And now I'm able to push forward the catapult in line because he's forced to use the catapult to unsiege his capital. It's just completely lost. So going from a situation like this, where my opponent has way better economy than me, also way better, just from this to something like this, just from mathematics.